Let's welcome Texas Congressman Brian Babin. Sir, it's great to have you back on. What were your thoughts when you heard the AG say that?
I couldn't agree with him more. I mean, we're seeing complete anarchy. And, I would say this, that Democrat elected officials in these areas should resign immediately if they're going to put anarchists and criminals before the safety and protection of their own citizens. It's outrageous and inexcusable. And the mainstream media is simply AWOL here. And, we're hearing some of these Democrats downplay what's going on. I think, everybody believes what they're seeing on television. And as you mentioned in your earlier segment, citizens in these areas, like in Portland, they absolutely know what's going on there. It's violence, it's chaos, it's a risk to their lives. And if you're in a sphere of influence of the Democratic Party, which is now controlled by the radical left, you run a very grave risk if you disagree with them. Not just called in names, but you can be assaulted, beat up, and even murdered, as we've seen.
All right, so watch this as Antifa and protesters deface and vandalize a memorial in Los Angeles to its fallen officers. It's called the Wall of Sacrifice. It's a memorial to officers killed on the job. I just want to follow up. What did you mean by you could get murdered?
Well, we've seen people be assaulted. We've seen a number of police officers who have been killed in the line of duty since all of this chaos ensued. And you're talking about the taking down of a monument to our great police officers and our police law enforcement. That's a thin blue line. And I'll tell you what, it's getting thinner by the day as the Democrats try to close them down, to defund them. It's incredible to think that they would put their citizens at that grave a risk. And there again, we see monuments being torn down. We're seeing, we're in the throes of what I would call the great American purge, the American history purge of 2020. And it's going to continue. I can see that in these Democrat areas.
The Republican National Committee Chair, Ronna McDaniel, called what's going on in Portland, quote, deeply frightening. She called out Democrats, including Joe Biden, for their silence on it. Watch Democrat Claire McCaskill say what's going on in Portland is, quote, peaceful. Watch this.
I know that is going on in Portland. It's by and large a peaceful protest. But what is being put in front of the American people is way too much of the footage of the fireworks and the shields and tearing down the fence. And that's a teeny portion of the people. And I'm with Michael. I mean, it's not smart for them to be picking a federal building. I'm all for the protests.
Okay, let's break it down. Again, 18 people are now dead because of these riots. We have federal buildings destroyed. We've got officers, dozens and dozens of officers injured. We have 3 officers potentially blinded by lasers. An Associated Press reporter was inside the building with the rioters attacking the federal courthouse. He saw these marshals and officials getting wounded. They're taking a lot. They're taking hits here. How can Claire McCaskill say that?
Because she's a Democrat. She's being controlled. The whole thought process of the Democratic Party. The radical wing of it is the tail that wags the dog of the Democratic Party now. And, I don't think that what she's missing, I would think, would be what America can expect if the Democrats win in November. You're going to see mass chaos. You're going to see the defunding of police departments. It's going to be a very bad situation. I can tell you that.
The question is, do peaceful protesters, throw Molotov cocktails? Do peaceful protesters burn down federal courthouses? Do peaceful protesters use tasers, slingshots with batteries in them, throwing frozen water balloons, launching fecal matter, using crowbars, sledgehammers? Let's listen. Here's the other thing. The mayor of Oakland, California, Democrat Libby Schaaf, she criticized how rioters are turning peaceful protests into violence. A group wearing helmets and goggles set fire to a courthouse in Oakland and vandalized a police station, shot fireworks at officers. Sir, before we go, I'd like your reaction to Democrat Rahm Emanuel trying to downplay what's going on. Let's listen to this.
There's also
the challenge to the
Antifa.
government. That's right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So they're not, I wouldn't paint a broad stroke is my short answer. There are people trying to hijack these legitimate protesters and create violence. And I think in the response from the federal government shouldn't be trying to make Antifa the face of the protest.
It's not some people. It's thousands of people in U.S. cities now swamped with rioting, where the rioting is happening. It's thousands of people. Your reaction, sir?
My reaction is just, it's absolutely outrageous. They have their eyes closed. They have an agenda that has to be followed, and truth doesn't seem to matter. We've seen these citizens that live. I mean, look, you see federal and private property destroyed. Democrats don't care. You see you see police officers assaulted. Democrats don't care. You see the destruction of all of the neighborhoods, businesses, livelihoods. Democrats don't seem to care. It doesn't fit the agenda. And so this is what I think. People have waked up. They see this, and they're outraged. And I think President Trump is doing a masterful job sending in the federal agents and sending in some more help, and they definitely need to be there to protect lives and federal property and private property. So I commend him 100%. Really appreciate him doing that.
Congressman Babin, Congressman, great to see you. Come back soon.
Thank you, Liz. Good to be with you.